From the California State Senate, this is Senate Spotlight.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this segment of Senate Spotlight, our 50th segment here, woohoo, where we discuss legislative priorities, policy, and other related issues with members of the California State Senate. From the state capitol here in Sacramento, I'm Brian Green, and joining us this time around is former Assemblyman and now freshman state senator from Napa, California's 3rd Senate District, and the newly appointed chair of the Senate Banking Committee, Senator Bill Dodd. Welcome.
Well, thank you very
Welcome
much,
to our
Brian.
number 50 here.
Well, it's great to be here.
Should have brought some
number 50.
champagne to celebrate all this. Yeah. No, glad to have you here. And I call you a freshman, but you are hardly a freshman around this place. You've served a term or so in the Assembly. You're now here in the Senate. But let's talk about some of the changes. Obviously, bigger Senate district. Just some of the dynamics coming to the upper house. What's changed, or is it just the same stuff, different color carpet? Tell us about it.
I came to Sacramento to do things and get things done, and I really think this gives me a platform over here to do a better job for my constituents in the district I serve. Of course, serving with 40 instead of 80 is a little bit easier, but I think it's the committees that I have been appointed to really are important committees to my district. I'm very pleased with the committees that I've received, so I'm poised to not lose any steam at all, just keep going from where we left up.
Oh, that's great. Well, I know as you before you came here, you were a member of local government with the Napa County Board of Supervisors.
14 years on the county board.
So you're familiar with that sometimes tension between local government priorities and state government priorities.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things that even though I am here in Sacramento, I haven't forgotten that. And I think it's important to remember that. That doesn't mean we're always going to agree, because from time to time there are going to be some, policy objectives here in Sacramento that may differ a little bit, but at least I can look at it from both perspectives.
Well, you have what a difference a couple of months makes, coming from the Assembly now to the Senate into this now era of Trump. So much of what California is going to be focused on, especially this year, is defending its civil and its social and its sort of human infrastructure in the figurative sense from the impact in Washington. And let's just go back 48 hours ago from when we speak right now. You participated with your Senate and Assembly colleagues and Congressman Mike Thompson up in Santa Rosa in this town hall in the high school gymnasium. There were 1,500 plus people there. It was an extraordinary experience. We happened to be there. This town hall to talk about California's fight to protect Affordable Care Act, protect Medicare. Hundreds of people, thousands of people, lives at stake here. What message did you take away from that, you and your colleagues?
Well, that was truly my 4th one that I had been to with Congressman Mike Thompson. I've been on because his district mirrors mine so much. But to be there with the other 5 members of our Senate and Assembly delegation from that district, it was really incredible. And we took away some really important, I think we brought an important message, but we took away an important message. People are afraid. Mm-hmm. People have health care insurance with their families, and we all know that how important health care is. And I believe health care is a right. It's a human right, and it's something that is important for every single family in the state of California. But more importantly, the Affordable Care Act is working in the state of California. We had a high uninsured rate, excuse me.
Right.
High uninsured rate, one of the highest in the nations. I think it was around 15%, and now it's down to about 7.1%. It's phenomenal. That doesn't even include the 420,000 people that were recently enrolled in that open enrollment period. So it is working here in the state of California, and we need to do everything we can to protect that for our constituents.
And what also seems to be working is the impact on these town halls on the congressional representatives in Washington, the ones who don't get such a friendly reception as you and your colleagues did the other day. They're coming back to Washington now going, let's rethink this whole repeal of the Affordable Care Act, maybe repair it if we must. So it is having an impact, isn't it?
The former Speaker Boehner started talking about that over the weekend, and he said, we're not going to repair and replace. We're going to repair and replace, not
repeal and
not
get rid
repeal,
of. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And so from that standpoint, that sounds a lot better. But we're going to keep working on that, and that's what we're encouraging our constituents around the state to do, is to keep being active. Send in notes to your congressman. Help out. If this is important to you, these are important steps that you can take. Even congressmen from other districts, tell your friends that are in those districts, let them know that they can send a note to them as well.
Banking issues affecting California consumers are important. You are the chair of the Senate Banking Committee starting here in 2017. We saw last year the unethical impact of the unethical practices of the recent Wells Fargo scandal, where millions of their customers were fraudulently given accounts, checking accounts, savings accounts, without their consent, using their personal information. Many of these banking victims in the wake of this have tried to sue, but they cannot. You have already come out the gate with legislation that would affect the future victims of these banking practices and their right to seek some legal redress on this. Tell us about SB 33.
Well, SB 33 is really straightforward, really simple. If you're a financial bank or financial institution and you have defrauded one of your customers, you no longer have the protection and the privilege of just going to arbitration. That person who you've defrauded has the ability for their day in court, which they deserve.
Wells Fargo has come and said, look, we originally, when they signed on for their basic accounts, they were told that the arbitration was all they get. So really, Wells Fargo did sort of a copy-paste into these fraudulent accounts. But Wells Fargo is saying, really, the rights are no different than the other accounts. What's your response to that?
My response to that is, I just simply don't agree. When a customer gives you their private information for a specific purpose, that's the only purpose that they give you their private information on. So they shouldn't be using it for any other purpose whatsoever. Now, specifically to the banking committee in general, the federal government seems to be looking at unwinding consumer protections.
Yes,
we're going to be really looking at that in the state of California to make sure that our consumers are protected. Now, the Dodd-Frank Act went a long way to
no relation,
producing
right? Yeah.
no relation whatsoever.
I'll give you credit if you want it, but just, yeah.
No, but certainly that act contributed to consumer protections, and that's one thing in the state of California we'll be looking very, very closely at to make sure that our consumers are protected.
Focusing here on Northern California, here in 2017, you and your Northern California and Valley legislative colleagues have formed the Legislative Delta Caucus to advocate for the environmental and economic health of the Delta. 5 counties, more than 1 million people. It's your home, so you care about it. It's a priority. A lot of controversial issues affecting the Delta, diverse voices in and out of the legislature. How is your caucus going to, I guess, is it going to be sort of a streamlining way, a channel, a path, channel, no pun intended, and the way issues relating to the Delta are dealt with?
Well, let me take it from the top. I have 4. I have every single county except for one is in my district. So what happens in the Delta is very, very important to the constituents that I represent. And I'm very proud to be a co-chair of this caucus committee with Assemblymember Jim Frazier, which represents a lot of the counties, and actually one more as well. So we really want to work to make sure that our constituents are heard. The Delta is a very, very fragile, area, and things like levee breaches, putting more and more pressure on that Delta is not good. We need to make sure that the Delta is protected from a number of different things.
Have the recent rains and the floodings and the storms, has that sort of changed the tableau here a little bit on how you deal with the Delta?
Well, absolutely. As one levee breaks in one area, that could set off a chain of events. And we're very, very fortunate to have this nice break in the weather, because a couple weeks ago, we were on the precipice of a very significant calamity if the rain had continued to come.
Napa County is focusing specifically your home. It's a world-renowned, of course, winemaking showcase. Wine grapes harvested and picked each year by thousands of farm workers who head into the vineyards during the grape harvest season that tend to the vines all year. When we think of California farm workers, a lot of times we mentally sort of default to the workers in the fields in the Central Valley and Bakersfield and Fresno. But there are, again, thousands of employed, housed folks there in the winemaking country, Sonoma County, Napa County. I know you're continuing the work and investment in those folks and in their housing, strengthening kind of, I guess, a nexus of partnerships in dealing with their housing. Talk about SB 240. How's that work?
Well, when I was in Napa County, the growers in Napa County assessed themselves. They had to get permission from the state of California, assess themselves up to $10 per acre to subsidize farm worker housing. Very proud of the agricultural community in Napa County for stepping up for these hardworking farm workers. And so what's happened is it's been up against that $10 cap for some time now, and there's just not enough money to continue the program. So we're working hard to get across to extend that to $15 per acre so that the growers can contribute more money to allow them to make sure that the farm workers are taken care of and their expenses are covered with their housing.
And one of your Valley colleagues, Assemblymember Cecilia Aguilar-Curry, is co-authoring this with you, right?
That's right. And I think there needs to be more public-private partnerships like this throughout the state of California, and that's another thing that we'll be working on in the future.
Let's talk about the farm workers just for the sake of discussion here. Again, we think oftentimes of farm workers here in California down in the Central Valley, but there are all the ones here in Northern California. What are some of the distinctions, differences in terms of, there's so many similarities, but the challenges they face, the rights that they are looking for, the housing issues. Can you just comment a little bit about what makes them unique or very much similar to their counterparts farther down the state?
What makes them a little bit more unique in wine country, for example, in Napa County, is that a lot of them live there 24/7, 52 weeks out of the year. But there is a segment of them that rotate around with different crops. Those are the people that we're really looking to house. It's a critical situation because in the past, this is what the growers were responding to. They were coming and pitching up tents along the Napa river and didn't have any quality of life. And so I think it's really fantastic what they've done. And not only do they incorporate housing, but they've got soccer fields, they've got libraries, computers, and English teaching classes that they do for the farm workers there. Whereas I think in the other counties, well, first of all, they're mostly 100% subsidized by the state of California, whereas this is the subsidy is pretty much almost all from the growers.
All local, yeah, right. Very interesting. Okay,
yeah, it really is.
One bill we need to get to before we check out here is one I'm sure found your way into your bill package in the wake of the debate since the election and the swearing in of our president. This whole epidemic of fake news, and its preponderance is sort of concerning, but I think even more so is that people can't recognize it. It's not as easy to recognize fake news as it used to be. We had the National Enquirer, we had the Globe with the picture of Bill Clinton shaking hands with the aliens. We all knew it was fake news. Nowadays, it's not so easy. So your bill is definitely not fake news, but what you want to do is educate, particularly California students, on the distinction between fake news and real news. Tell us about SB 135.
We're simply asking the Board of Education in their curriculum design standards committee to upgrade. They've had critical learning skills for ages in our school system, but it really hasn't kept up with the digital age. So we're asking them to upgrade those standards, and that'll take some time, but immediately upon passage of this bill, there will be teaching elements on their website to help people learn these skills, either students or teachers.
True, teacher training on this.
Teacher training, yes. It's something I think is very important, particularly in a day and age where you get this fake news will get more clicks through on Facebook or other social media by double or triple what legitimate news sources would be getting. And I think it's important that we get those skills for our kids.
All right. Finally, a piece of legislation that you have from teaching students about how to distinguish fake news to hiring more people to teach them. Recent stats say our number of students that are going to be coming out here in California growing by millions. We need more teachers. You are providing some incentives to particularly the community colleges to provide some more curriculum and training for those teachers. Talk about SB 577.
Well, teachers in the pipeline are shrinking. It used to be there was a lot of teachers waiting to get into the pipeline to teach our students. Today, that's not so. And as you just said, it is going to be something that's very important with so many new students in the pipeline to have teachers to teach them. So there are 20 out of 58 counties that don't have any curriculum
protocols,
protocols, or the design of the credential, the teaching credentials, in their communities. And there's many of these kids that want to be teachers in their communities. That it's one more year of school. They have to drive a long way, which is not good for our environment, or worse, expensive housing and tuition elsewhere. So allowing community colleges to be able to step up and offer this will save money, put more teachers out in the field sooner and more efficiently.
Great. You have a very robust legislative package here, starting your first year as a freshman in the California State Senate. Hope we can bring you back here in the next couple of months and later on in the spring and see how things are moving along. A lot more we could talk about. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Brian. Appreciate it very, very much. I'll be back.
Oh, good. Glad to have you here, and glad to have you here for number 50. State Senator Bill Dodd from Napa. He is the chair of the Senate Banking Committee. And that wraps up this segment of Senate Spotlight. We invite you to join us next time around as we discuss important legislative issues and policy with newsmakers and newsbreakers, not fake news, but real newsbreakers from the California State Senate. And here from the state capitol in Sacramento, I'm Brian Green. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching Senate Spotlight.